There's a moment in every transition story that I think doesn't get talked about enough. It's the moment when the waiting ends. The moment when you stop becoming and you simply are. The moment when you look in the mirror and the person looking back at you isn't a work in progress, isn't a before photo, isn't a goal you're still striving towards. She's just you. She's been there all along, and finally, she's the only one you can see. I had been on my journey for a while. I had been on hormones for nearly 2 years. I had come out to everyone. I had changed my name legally. I had undergone facial feminization surgery. I had done all the big things. And I was happy. I was so much happier than I had ever been. But there was still this lingering sense of incompleteness. Like I was still one step away from the finish line. Like I was still holding my breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the moment when I would finally, fully become her. I had been living as a Lara full-time for over a year. I went to work as a Lara. I went to the grocery store as a Lara. I went to family gatherings as a Lara. The world saw me as a woman. But sometimes, when I looked in the mirror, I still saw the ghost. I still saw the person I used to be, lurking in the shadows of my reflection. He was fainter now, a whisper instead of a shout, but he was still there. And his presence was a constant, nagging reminder that I wasn't quite there yet. I was tired of waiting. I was tired of the in-between. I was tired of feeling like I was almost there, but not quite. Chloe would tell me, "You're already there, Alara. You've been there for a long time. You just need to see what I see." And I believed her, intellectually. I knew she was right. But knowing something and feeling something are two very different things. I knew I was a woman. I knew I was valid. I knew I was beautiful. But I didn't always feel it. The feeling was elusive, like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. I would have moments of euphoria, moments when I felt completely, utterly myself. I'd be dancing in the kitchen, making dinner, and I'd catch a glimpse of myself in the window. I'd see this woman, this beautiful, happy woman, and I'd think, that's me. That's really me. But those moments were fleeting. They'd be followed by moments of doubt, moments when the old fears would creep back in. Moments when I'd look in the mirror and see the man I used to be, staring back at me with sad, knowing eyes. It was exhausting. It was like being on a roller coaster, with dizzying highs and crushing lows. I wanted off the ride. I wanted to be steady. I wanted to be whole. I remember talking to my therapist, Dr. Evans, about this. "I'm so close," I told her. "I can feel it. I'm so close to being her completely. But there's still this gap. This tiny little gap between who I am and who I feel I am. And I can't seem to close it." Dr. Evans looked at me with her kind, wise eyes. She had been with me from the beginning. She had seen me at my most broken, my most scared, my most vulnerable. She had watched me grow and change and transform. And she had never once doubted me. "Alara," she said softly, "you've been so focused on the journey that you haven't noticed you've arrived. You are her. You've been her all along. The only thing left to do is to let yourself feel it. To let yourself believe it. The gap you're feeling isn't a gap in your identity. It's a gap in your acceptance of yourself. And only you can close that gap." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. She was right. I had been so focused on the process, on the steps, on the milestones, that I had forgotten to look up and see the destination. I had arrived. I just hadn't realized it yet. The night before it happened was, once again, an ordinary night. Isn't that always the way? The most profound moments of our lives always seem to come on the most ordinary of days. It was a Friday evening. Chloe and I had just finished a long week. We had ordered takeout, our favorite Thai place. We were sitting on the couch, watching a movie, a silly romantic comedy that we'd seen a dozen times before. I was curled up against her, her arm around me, her fingers gently playing with my hair. I was tired. Not the soul-deep exhaustion I used to feel, but a good tired. The tired of a week well-lived. I had done good work. I had connected with friends. I had laughed. I had been present. It was a good week. As we watched the movie, I started to feel something shift inside me. It was a subtle feeling, like a door gently creaking open. It was the feeling of something letting go. A tightness I didn't even know I was holding started to release. I looked around the room. Our apartment. Our home. It was filled with little pieces of us. The art we'd bought together. The plants I'd managed to keep alive. The throw pillows Chloe had insisted we needed. It was our sanctuary. It was where I had become myself. I looked at Chloe. She was beautiful, her face relaxed, a little smile playing on her lips. She was watching the movie, but she was also watching me. She always watched me. It was like she was constantly checking in, making sure I was okay. "I love you," I said softly. She turned to me, her eyes warm and full of love. "I love you too, Alara. More than anything." I snuggled closer to her. "I'm happy," I said. "I'm really, really happy." She kissed the top of my head. "I know," she said. "I can tell." We finished the movie and got ready for bed. As I was brushing my teeth, I looked in the bathroom mirror. I studied my reflection. The woman looking back at me was tired, but content. Her hair was a mess. She had a little bit of toothpaste on her lip. She was wearing an oversized t-shirt and no makeup. She was a mess, but she was real. She was me. I smiled at my reflection. "Good night, Alara," I whispered. "Good night," my reflection seemed to whisper back. I climbed into bed and fell asleep almost instantly, wrapped in Chloe's arms. It was a deep, peaceful sleep. The kind of sleep that only comes when you feel safe and loved and whole. And while I slept, something magical happened. I woke up slowly. It wasn't a sudden jolt of consciousness. It was a gentle, gradual rise to awareness, like floating up from the bottom of a deep, peaceful ocean. The first thing I noticed was the light. It was different. It was softer, warmer, more golden. It was like the sun was shining through rose-colored glasses. Everything had a warm, pinkish glow. The second thing I noticed was the feeling. I felt light, weightless, like I was floating. The familiar heaviness in my chest, the knot in my stomach, the tension in my shoulders, it was gone. It was just gone. In its place was a feeling of pure, unadulterated peace. I opened my eyes. Chloe was still asleep beside me. She looked like an angel. Her hair was spread out across the pillow. Her lips were slightly parted. She was so beautiful. I looked around the room. The same furniture, the same pictures on the wall. But it all looked different. It all looked clearer, more vivid. The colors were more vibrant. The light was brighter. It was like someone had turned up the saturation on the world. I sat up slowly. I looked at my hands. They were my hands. I had seen them a million times. But today they looked different. They looked right. They looked like they belonged to me. They looked like my hands. I got out of bed and walked to the bathroom. I was a little nervous. I had woken up feeling so good, so different, so whole. But I had felt that way before, only to have it shattered by the reflection in the mirror. I was scared. I was scared that the feeling would fade. I was scared that the ghost would be back. I took a deep breath. I looked in the mirror, and I saw her. Not a glimpse of her. Not a version of her that was almost there. Not a work in progress. I saw her. I saw Alara. Fully, completely, undeniably Alara. She was looking back at me with wide, wondering eyes. She looked young and fresh and beautiful. Her skin was glowing. Her eyes were bright and clear. There was a softness to her face that I'd never quite seen before. The faint shadows of masculinity that had lingered for so long were gone, vanished, like they had never been there. I touched my face. My fingers traced my cheeks, my nose, my lips. It felt like my face. It felt real. It felt like me. I started to cry. But it wasn't a sad cry. It wasn't a relieved cry. It was a cry of pure, unadulterated joy. It was the cry of someone who had just found something they had been searching for their entire life. It was the cry of someone who had finally come home. "Hi," I whispered to my reflection. "It's so good to finally see you." And my reflection smiled back at me. A real smile. A smile that came from a place of deep, profound happiness. I had become her overnight. I had gone to sleep as a woman who was still, in some small part of her mind, a work in progress. And I had woken up as a woman who was finally, completely, utterly done. The process was over. The journey was complete. I was her. And I loved it. I stood in front of that mirror for a long time. I couldn't take my eyes off myself. I had never been able to look at myself before. I had always looked away, flinched, avoided my own reflection. But now I couldn't stop looking. I was captivating. I was beautiful. I was me. I touched my hair. It was soft and shiny. I had been growing it out for years, but today it looked different. It looked like it belonged to me. It framed my face perfectly. It made me look soft and feminine and beautiful. I touched my skin. It was smooth and soft and glowing. It was the skin of a woman. My skin. I touched my body. I was wearing an oversized t-shirt, the same one I'd worn to bed. But today it looked different. It looked like it was draped over a woman's body. I could see the gentle curves, the soft contours. I could see my breasts, small but definitely there, perfectly proportioned to my frame. I could see the narrowness of my waist, the gentle flare of my hips. My body was my body, and it was beautiful. I did something I had never done before. I danced. I danced in front of the mirror, swaying my hips, moving my arms, letting my body flow and move and groove. I felt so free, so joyful,
so alive.
Chloe woke up. She must have heard me moving around. She appeared in the doorway of the bathroom, still half asleep, her hair a mess, her eyes barely open. "Alara," she mumbled. "What are you doing?" I turned to her, my face glowing, my eyes shining. "Look at me," I said. "Look at me, Chloe. I'm here. I'm finally here." She blinked a few times, rubbing her eyes. She looked at me, really looked at me, and then she saw it. I could see the recognition in her eyes. The moment when she realized that something had changed. Something profound. Something beautiful. "Alara," she whispered, her voice full of awe. "You're glowing. You're different. You're you." I laughed. It was a joyful, bubbling laugh. "I know," I said. "I can see it. I can feel it. I'm her. I'm finally her." She came over to me and wrapped her arms around me. We stood there in the bathroom, holding each other, crying and laughing. It was the most beautiful moment of my life. The moment when I finally became myself, and the person I loved most in the world was there to witness it. After I had calmed down a little, I went back to the mirror. I couldn't stay away. I was obsessed with my own reflection. It was like I had been blind my whole life, and suddenly I could see. I didn't just see myself differently. I saw the world differently. Everything looked different. The colors were more vibrant. The light was brighter. The shapes were sharper. It was like I had been seeing the world through a foggy window, and someone had finally cleaned it. I went into the living room. The sunlight was streaming in through the windows, and it was the most beautiful sunlight I had ever seen. It was golden and warm, and it seemed to fill every corner of the room with a soft, warm glow. I walked to the window and looked out. The street below was bustling with activity. People were walking their dogs. Children were playing. Cars were driving by. It was an ordinary scene, but it looked extraordinary. It looked like life. Real, beautiful, chaotic life. And I was a part of it. I realized in that moment that I had been disconnected from the world for so long. I had been so focused on my own internal struggle that I had forgotten to look outward. I had been living in my head, in my pain, in my fear. And I had missed so much. I had missed the beauty. I had missed the joy. I had missed the simple, profound miracle of being alive. But today I was connected. I was present. I was alive. I was a part of the world, and the world was a part of me. It was a beautiful, overwhelming, incredible feeling. Chloe came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. I leaned back into her. "I'm thinking about how beautiful the world is," I said. "I'm thinking about how I never noticed it before. I was so busy being sad that I missed all of this. But I'm not sad anymore. I'm not sad at all." She kissed my cheek. "I'm so happy for you, Alara. I've been waiting for this moment for so long. I knew you'd get here. I knew you'd find your way home. That day, everything was different. Even the little things. The things I had taken for granted, the things I had never even noticed before, became sources of immense joy. I made coffee. It was the same coffee I had made 1,000 times before. But today, it tasted different. It tasted better. It was warm and rich and comforting. I held the mug in my hands and felt the warmth seep into my palms. It felt like a hug. I made breakfast. I made a simple omelet with toast and avocado. It was a meal I had made 100 times. But today, it felt different. It felt like a celebration. I was nourishing my body. My beautiful, feminine, perfect body. I was taking care of myself. And it felt good. I got dressed. I opened my closet and looked at my clothes. They were the same clothes I had worn before. Dresses, skirts, blouses, jeans. But today, they looked different. They looked like they belonged to me. They weren't just clothes I was wearing to pass. They were expressions of who I was. They were my armor, my shield, my celebration. I chose a beautiful sundress, a soft, flowing floral dress that I had always loved but never quite felt comfortable in. Today, I slipped it on, and it felt like it was made for me. It hugged my curves perfectly. It made me feel beautiful. It made me feel like me. I did my makeup, but it wasn't a chore today. It wasn't a necessity. It was a pleasure. I took my time. I savored the ritual. The soft brush against my skin, the gentle sweep of color, the careful application of mascara. I was painting a masterpiece. And the masterpiece was me. When I was done, I looked in the mirror. I was beautiful. I was radiant. I was everything I had ever wanted to be. And I loved every single thing about myself. I walked out of the bedroom, and Chloe gasped. "Ilara," she said. "You look breathtaking." I smiled. I twirled. The skirt of my dress spun out around me. "I know," I said. "I'm a goddess." We laughed. It was a silly, joyful, carefree laugh. It was the sound of pure, unadulterated happiness. "Chloe," suggested we go out. "We should celebrate," she said. "This is a big day. We should do something special." I was nervous for a moment. The old fear crept in. What if I'm not ready? What if something goes wrong? What if people stare? But then I looked in the mirror, and I saw her. I saw Ilara. And I knew she was ready. I was ready. "Okay," I said. "Let's go out." We went to a little cafe we loved. It was a cozy, intimate place with outdoor seating. We sat outside under a big umbrella, and we ordered coffee and pastries. It was a beautiful day. The sun was warm. The breeze was gentle. I felt like I was in a movie, the protagonist of my own beautiful, incredible story. As we sat there, I noticed people looking at me. But they weren't looking at me with suspicion or curiosity or judgment. They were looking at me with appreciation. A few men smiled at me. A woman complimented my dress. A child pointed at me and said, "Mommy, look at the pretty lady." It was the most amazing feeling in the world. I was being seen. I was being seen as who I was. I was being seen as a woman. And I didn't have to try. I didn't have to perform. I didn't have to pretend. I was just me. And that was enough. We spent the whole day out. We went to the park. We walked along the river. We went shopping. We had dinner at a fancy restaurant. I wore my beautiful dress and my new silver necklace. I felt like a princess. I felt like I was living in a dream. And the best part was it wasn't a dream. It was real. This was my life now. This was who I was. And I loved every single second of it. One of the most profound things about that day was the joy of being seen. Not just seen, but seen as myself. For so long, I had been invisible. I had been hiding in plain sight. People saw the mask, but they didn't see the real me. And it was a lonely, isolating existence. But that day, I was seen. I was seen by Chloe, who had loved me through all of it. I was seen by the strangers in the cafe, who smiled at me and complimented me. I was seen by the world. And the joy of being seen was so profound, so overwhelming, that I couldn't stop crying. I was happy. I was so happy. At dinner, Chloe reached across the table and took my hand. I'm so proud of you, she said. You've come so far. You've been so brave. And look at you now. You're so beautiful. You're so confident. You're so you. I squeezed her hand. I couldn't have done it without you, I said. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You saw me when I couldn't see myself. You loved me when I couldn't love myself. You're the reason I'm here. You're the reason I'm her. We both cried. It was a beautiful, heartfelt moment. Two women, deeply in love, celebrating the joy of being together and the joy of being themselves. That night, we went home. It had been a long, beautiful, perfect day. I was tired, but it was a good tired. A satisfied tired. A happy tired. I took off my makeup slowly, savoring the ritual. I looked in the mirror. The woman looking back at me was tired, but she was glowing. She was happy. She was complete. I climbed into bed. Chloe was already there, waiting for me. I curled up next to her, my head on her chest. I could hear her heartbeat. It was steady and strong. It was the sound of love. It was the sound of home. I love you, Alara, she whispered. I love you too, Chloe, I said. More than you'll ever know. I closed my eyes. I was content. I was at peace. I was home. I had become her overnight. And I loved it. I loved every single thing about it. I loved being her. I loved being me. That was the day I truly became myself. It wasn't a gradual process. It wasn't a slow evolution. It was a transformation, a metamorphosis. I went to bed as one person and woke up as another. But I didn't become someone new. I became the person I had always been. I shed the skin of the person I was pretending to be, and I emerged as the person I was always meant to be. And it was the most beautiful, liberating, incredible experience of my life. The journey wasn't over. It would never be over. Life is a journey, not a destination. But that day was the turning point. That day was the day I stopped striving and started living. That day was the day I stopped becoming and started being. I became her overnight. And I loved it. I loved the softness of my skin. I loved the curves of my body. I loved the way my dresses flowed around me. I loved the way my hair fell across my shoulders. I loved the way I laughed. I loved the way I cried. I loved the way I loved. I loved being a woman. And the most beautiful part of it all? I didn't just become her. I became me, the real me, the me I had been hiding for so long, the me I had been so afraid to show the world. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I was free. I was me. And I loved it. So, to anyone out there who is still waiting, still hoping, still struggling, don't give up. Your moment is coming. Your transformation is on its way. You will become who you were always meant to be. And when you do, you will love it. You will love every single part of yourself. Because you are beautiful. You are valid. You are enough. And you deserve to be happy.